Welcome back to Byte-Sized Tech, where we like to take all the cool things in tech and kind of break them down without all the jargon.
Yeah, making it accessible.
Exactly. And today we're going to be doing a deep dive into AI.
Ooh, AI. It's everywhere.
It really is. It feels like every time I open up the news, it's like AI is doing this and AI is doing that.
It's learning how to make a souffle next week, probably.
Oh, gosh, I hope not.
Yeah.
I mean, I make a pretty mean souffle.
Oh, we'll have to have a cook-off.
We'll have a cook-off. Deal. So we're going to be going over some really interesting stories today. We're going to be looking at TLDR, AI, and the neuron. So we're getting a bunch of different sources.
Yeah, really well-rounded. Look at what's going on in the AI space.
Absolutely. And I think to kick things off, let's start with OpenAI. TLDR was reporting that they are partnering with Broadcom to develop their own custom silicon for AI.
Ooh, that's huge.
Yeah, it kind of feels like a turning point.
It does. You see, right now, most companies, they rely on general purpose chips for their AI work, but those aren't always the most efficient. So OpenAI is basically saying, we're going to build our own superhighway specifically for AI.
Okay, I love that analogy.
It's a good one.
It's a really good one. So can you kind of break down what that means for like the average person, like me,
Sure.
like if I'm using ChatGPT?
Right. So potentially custom chips, they mean better performance and potentially lower costs for OpenAI. So that could trickle down to users.
Right.
But it also raises questions about their relationship with Microsoft, because remember, Microsoft is deeply invested in OpenAI, both financially and in terms of integrating their models into products like GitHub Copilot.
Yeah, and speaking of GitHub Copilot, TLDR mentioned that Microsoft is now including other AI models like Claude and Gemini in the mix. I mean, does this mean that there's some drama going on behind the scenes?
It's hard to say for sure. It makes you wonder. It's interesting timing, considering TLDR AI highlighted that OpenAI might transition to a public benefit B corporation. Have you heard of this?
You know, I've heard that term, but I don't really know like what it actually means.
So essentially, it means that they would be legally obligated to balance profit with a positive social impact. So imagine a company like Google, but with a charter that says they have to prioritize things like ethical AI development or making their technology accessible to everyone.
Oh, so it's like baking social responsibility into their DNA.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
mean, that's pretty wild to think about. What do
Yeah.
you think is driving this for OpenAI?
Well, there's been growing concern about the potential downsides of AI, like, job displacement or biased algorithms. So maybe OpenAI wants to address those concerns head on and position themselves as the good guys of AI.
Right. It could also be a play for, developers or users who are concerned about AI to kind of pull them in.
Absolutely. And to say, hey, we're the ethical ones, work with us.
Right. But how does that work with their partnership with Microsoft? I mean,
Okay.
Microsoft is a very profit-driven company.
That is the million-dollar question. Could this potential transition strain their relationship with Microsoft? It's definitely something to watch. It also makes you wonder if Microsoft's decision to include other AI models in GitHub Copilot is a way of hedging their bets.
So they're like, hey, we still love you, OpenAI, but just in case, like, we're going to do our own thing over here.
Exactly.
Okay, so we have OpenAI kind of like shaking things up over there with their custom chips and a B Corp move.
Right.
What else is happening in the AI landscape?
Well, while OpenAI is making headlines, Apple is quietly making its own moves. So they're rolling out Apple Intelligence features, starting with text and photo editing.
Apple is so secretive about what they do.
They are.
Like, everything is very hush-hush over there.
Right. And it makes sense. Apple's always been about seamless user experience. So they're not necessarily trying to build the most powerful AI, but rather integrate it in a way that feels natural and enhances what people are already doing on their devices.
So, like, no one's going to really know what's happening. It's just going to be like, oh, this is so much easier.
Right. Exactly. Like small but mighty kind of changes.
I like that. And, speaking of impact, I was really excited to read about GitHub Spark. This is a tool that lets anyone build micro apps using natural language, even if you don't know how to code.
Isn't that cool?
That is really cool.
It's a game changer, because imagine a world where anyone, even someone who's never written a line of code, can create custom apps to automate tasks or solve specific problems.
Right. Like my mom, she's always asking me, can you just make this thing do this? And I'm like, Mom, you don't understand. I have to go in there and I have to build it.
And I need to get paid for this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But with this, it's like anyone can kind of jump in there and create their own.
Totally.
Which is pretty cool.
Yeah, and I think this ties back to what we were discussing earlier about OpenAI's potential B Corp transition. Is there a push towards making AI more accessible and empowering for everyone, not just big tech companies?
Yeah, it feels like there's a shift happening. where it's not just like the big guys playing with their toys anymore. It's like, hey, this is for everyone,
Yeah.
which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have OpenAI doing their thing,
Yeah.
Apple doing their thing, GitHub democratizing app development.
Yeah. Lots going on.
It's a lot to digest.
Yeah.
But we're going to take a quick pause. When we come back, we're going to explore even more AI developments, including some really cool stuff happening in the gaming world. So stay tuned.
Can't wait.
Yeah. So we've talked about OpenAI possibly becoming a public benefit B corporation, but they're not the only ones making waves. TLDR AI brought up something pretty interesting. Apparently, more than 25% of new code at Google is being generated by AI.
Wow.
Yeah,
Big
that's
lot.
that's a lot. It really highlights how even established tech giants are embracing AI in a big way.
Yeah, they're not shying away from it at all. And it's not just Google. TLDR mentioned that GitHub is leaning into this trend as well.
Wait, are you talking about that GitHub Spark tool?
Yes.
The one that lets anyone build micro apps just by using natural language?
That's the one.
That's crazy.
And it's a pretty big deal. Think about it. You no longer need to be a coding whiz to create your own apps.
I know, right? It's like they're giving everyone the power to be their own little tech startup.
Exactly.
But all this AI development, Google's code generation, GitHub Spark, it all requires some serious computing power, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that brings us back to the AI chip race we touched on earlier. Remember how OpenAI is reportedly working on their own custom silicon?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's just one piece of the puzzle.
Right. We've got OpenAI partnering with Broadcom and TSMC. Google has its tensor processors and Apple's got its neural engine.
Right.
It's like everyone is trying to build the ultimate AI brain.
Exactly. And this race for better hardware is driven by the fact that AI models are getting incredibly complex. They need specialized chips that can handle the massive amount of data they process.
Okay.
Think of it like this. You wouldn't try to run a high-end video game on a computer from the 90s, would you?
Oh, no way. I remember trying to play The Sims on my old family computer. It was a slideshow. So these specialized chips are like giving AI the horsepower it needs to really perform.
Precisely. They offer significant advantages in terms of speed and efficiency. Imagine being able to train a massive language model in a fraction of the time, or running complex AI algorithms on your phone without draining the battery in minutes.
That sounds amazing.
Right.
But are there any downsides to this whole specialized chip craze?
Well, one potential drawback is cost. These chips are expensive to develop and manufacture, which could make AI technology less accessible to smaller companies or individual developers.
So it's a trade-off, better performance, but potentially higher costs?
Exactly.
That makes sense. But speaking of potential downsides, we can't ignore the big question that everyone's asking: what's going to happen to jobs as AI becomes more powerful?
It's a valid concern and one we need to discuss honestly. But I think it's important to remember that AI isn't just about replacing humans, it's also about augmenting human capabilities.
Okay, so instead of thinking of AI as a job killer, we should think of it as a powerful tool that can help us do our jobs better.
Exactly. Imagine AI handling repetitive tasks, analyzing data, and providing insights that we might miss. This frees us up to focus on things that require creativity, critical thinking, and human interaction skills that AI is still a long way from mastering.
That's a much more optimistic outlook. So instead of asking, will AI take my job, maybe the better question is, how can I use AI to make my job more interesting and fulfilling?
I love that, and it really highlights the importance of adaptability and lifelong learning. The jobs of the future will likely look very different from the jobs of today, and we need to be prepared to evolve alongside technology.
That's a great point. It's not about competing with AI, but about learning how to work with it. Okay, so we've got OpenAI pushing the boundaries of what AI can do, Apple quietly integrating AI into our everyday lives, and GitHub giving everyone the power to build their own apps. Plus, we're starting to see how AI could transform the workplace, not by replacing us, but by working alongside us. It's a lot to take in, but it's also incredibly exciting.
It really is, and this is just the tip of the iceberg. There are so many other exciting developments happening in the AI world. For example, do you know that companies are now using AI to create synthetic data? It's pretty mind-blowing stuff.
Synthetic data. Okay, I'm intrigued, but I need you to explain that one to me like I'm 5.
Okay, so imagine you're creating a video game and you need a ton of data to train the AI that controls the characters, the environment, everything. Getting all that real-world data is incredibly time-consuming and expensive.
Right, you'd need to film every possible scenario, every movement, every facial expression. It would take forever.
Exactly. But with synthetic data, you can use AI to generate realistic but artificial data. So instead of filming 1,000 different ways a character could walk, you can use AI to create those animations based on a few real-world examples.
That's brilliant. So it's like AI creating its own training manual for games. Does that mean we're going to see even more realistic and immersive games in the future?
Absolutely. And it's not just visually. AI-generated data can be used for things like creating more complex dialogue systems or simulating realistic physics.
Wow, that's mind-blowing. So we're talking about games that feel truly alive, where the characters react realistically and the world around you is dynamic and unpredictable. This is why I love technology. It's constantly pushing boundaries and creating possibilities we never even imagined.
And this synthetic data technology isn't just limited to games. It has huge potential in other fields like manufacturing and even medical research. Imagine being able to create virtual simulations of real-world scenarios to test new products or train medical professionals.
That's incredible. It feels like we're on the cusp of a major technological shift. But before we get too carried away with all the possibilities, let's take a moment to talk about the ethical considerations surrounding AI. It's important to make sure that this powerful technology is used responsibly.
You're absolutely right. As AI becomes more integrated into our lives, it's crucial to have conversations about things like bias, privacy, and job displacement. We need to make sure that AI benefits everyone, not just a select few.
Well said. And that's why we need to stay informed, engage in these discussions, and make our voices heard. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground today, from the race for the best AI chips to the potential impact on jobs, and even the mind-blowing possibilities of synthetic data. But one thing is clear. AI is here to stay, and it's changing everything.
Exactly. And as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with a question to ponder. If AI can now generate code-write text and even design apps, what human skills will be most valuable in the future?
That's a great question. It's something we all need to be thinking about as we navigate this exciting and sometimes overwhelming world of artificial intelligence. Thanks for tuning into Byte-Sized Tech. If you enjoyed the episode, like, comment, share, and subscribe for more fun tech discussions. Welcome back to Byte-Sized Tech. Before the break, we were geeking out about how AI is being used to create synthetic data for video games and even beyond.
Yeah, it's pretty wild stuff.
It really seems like the possibilities are endless with this technology.
Yeah, for sure. And it's not just in gaming either. We're seeing it across all these different industries, even in something as straightforward as productivity.
Oh, tell me more. I am always looking for ways to, be more productive and efficient.
Yeah, who isn't? Well, TLDR highlighted a company called Sana,
Okay.
and they're basically building these expert assistants for every team. So imagine you have an AI that can help you with research scheduling, even like drafting reports.
Okay, that sounds amazing.
Right.
It's like having a superpower intern who never sleeps and is always happy to help.
Exactly.
Where do I sign up?
I know, right? Investors seem to agree because they just recently raised $55 million in funding, so clearly they're onto something.
That's a lot of cash. It shows that people are really betting on AI to transform the workplace.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Speaking of transforming the workplace, the Neuron had an interesting tidbit about OpenAI. Apparently, they're using a tool called Statsig to iterate and scale their AI development process more efficiently.
Interesting.
So they're using AI to build AI faster.
It's very meta.
That's pretty meta.
Right. But it just goes to show that even the companies at the forefront of AI development, they're still looking for ways to improve their workflow and push the boundaries of what's possible.
It's like they're playing a game of AI leapfrog, constantly trying to outdo each other
Exactly.
with faster, smarter, more efficient tools.
Yeah, and I think this kind of connects back to a theme that we've been touching on a little bit throughout this whole deep dive, which is accessibility.
Yeah.
We saw it with GitHub spark these AI-powered micro apps, and even OpenAI's potential B Corp transition. It feels like there's this movement towards making AI more user-friendly and accessible to a wider audience.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's no longer just like, for tech giants and research labs. It's something that anyone can use
Right.
to enhance their productivity, problem-solving abilities.
For sure. And I think that brings us to, the big question, what does this all mean for our listeners?
Yeah.
AI is no longer a futuristic concept. It's here. It's changing everything.
It is.
From the way we work to the way we play.
Yeah.
And it's up to each of us to embrace its potential and, navigate its challenges responsibly.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we need to stay curious, keep learning, and adapt to this ever-evolving landscape. And as we wrap up this bite-sized tech deep dive, we want to leave you with a thought-provoking question.
Ooh, I like it.
If AI can now generate code-write text and even design apps, what human skills will be most valuable in the future? What will set us apart in an increasingly AI-driven world?
That's the question, isn't it?
It is the question. Thanks for tuning in to Bite-Sized Tech. If you enjoyed the episode, like, comment, share, and subscribe for more fun tech discussions.